Welcome back to Anderson Acres. Today we are going to talk about moving your baby quail from your hatcher into a brooder. Okay, so I have got 3 baby quail in here. Remember, 4 eggs went into lockdown. 1 has not hatched, and I don't think it's going to. Nope, it's probably not going to hatch. So we're just going to leave it. We're going to go with our 3 babies, and we're going to call it a day because they have been in the hatcher now for 2.5 days, and really 3 days is your max. From the time your first one hatches to when you take them out of the hatcher, you have 3 days, because then they need food and water. They need, until then, they're sustained by the egg yolk that was inside the egg with them. But now they're going to need food and water, so we don't put food and water in the hatcher. So we're going to remove the chicks from the hatcher and move them to a brooder. So before I do that, I'm just going to show you my brooder setup. Okay, we're just going to move over here and look. Yes, there's other baby quail in here. So we have actually 6 baby quail in here. We have these bigger guys are 2 weeks old, and the tiny guys that just went into the brooder plate. There's one. There's a little one. But that little guy is a week old. So we're going to add these 2 days old babies. You're just going to see a feeder come out of nowhere. There we go. So that, if you're wondering, yes, that was one of my sons. So I'm just going to talk about the brooder setup before we put the babies into here. So you'll notice, when there's a feeder, you want to give your babies, you either want to give them, if you can, if you're very lucky, you will find that you can get a quail starter. We can't. We don't have quail starter where we're from. We only have turkey starter. We have turkey or game bird, and I find turkey starter works better. I feed turkey starter to my baby quail. I feed it to my adult quail. Turkey starter is what my quail are on 100% of the time through their entire lives. So they do need food. So get a feeder set up. I like these feeders because they're not humongous and quail are little. Okay? Next, you're also going to need heat for your babies. Okay, you need heat. Your babies cannot survive without heat at this point because they're brand new babies. Look at that. They're brand new babies in there. Brand new babies. So because they're brand new babies, they need some kind of heat. A lot of people use heat lamps. I used to use heat lamps. It only took one bad incident for me to stop using heat lamps. So now I use brooder plates. Now this is, I think this is a Titan. I might get the brand name wrong. My favorite brooder plates are actually Brinsea's, but my best friend has borrowed my Brinsea heat plate. And you're also going to see a waterer come in. We'll talk about that in a second. So my favorite heat plates are the Brinsea. I don't have one here right now because my best friend stole it, and it's in her brooder, so I have my Titans. The Titans work fine too. I'll provide links to these things so you can get them if you need to set up your own brooder. Okay, but you do need some kind of heat. I don't like heat plates. I don't like heat lamps. I like heat plates. So the thing I like about heat plates is you can keep them really low for the tiny babies, and you can raise them up higher for bigger babies. Now, my bigger babies in here are 2 weeks old, so they don't need a ton of heat. Okay, they don't need a whack ton of heat. They are pretty good without it at this point. These little guys are the ones that still need heat, and then the little guys we're about to put in. So my heat plate is fairly low. Yes, it's a Titan. I'll provide links. So you want a heat plate or a heat lamp, but I prefer a heat plate because it lets them choose to go under, get warm, or get out and get cooled down. So I find it helps their growth rate a little bit better because they can regulate their own temperature a little earlier. Next, you're going to need water. Okay, here's where I'm going to talk about quail are crazy. Okay? They're going to drown themselves. So we use these tiny little quail waterers. See how little that base is? Now the bucket top, the jug, is the same as for food, and it's the same as for a bigger base. But we use these tiny little quail base waterers because they will drown themselves. If a quail can get his little tiny head in that water, he's going to do it. He's going to drown. So we'll talk more about ways in which quail can kill themselves in a minute. But those are the 3 basic things you need. Food, water, heat plate. You also need some kind of bedding. For the most part, we just have food scattered around on the ground because they do that themselves. So we don't, worry too much about bedding because we're inside, it's summer, it's not really that big a deal. Also, you need some kind of brooder. This thing is by far my favorite brooder I've ever used. This is a small animal playpen. Again, I'll provide a link in the description. These are my favorite things. Mine is purple. You can get them in many colors. The birds don't care what color it is. So, any color you like. And I love these because they have such good airflow. You see they have mesh on all sides. They have a mesh top that I zip up and then the babies don't jump out. And it just seems to have gone really, really well since we switched to this kind of brooder. They're inexpensive, easy to replace, easy to get. You can get them on Amazon. You can probably get them at your local pet store. These are they're cheap and easy to find, and they have worked really, really well. They are not predator proof. Okay, obviously they are mesh and fabric. So they are not predator proof. So you can't have them, out on your grass unsupervised. You can put them out on the grass while I'm out there. But you can't have these outdoors unsupervised because they're not predator proof. But most people are not brooding their little babies directly outside anyway. So I really love these brooders. Again, they're just small animal playpens, like for your rabbit or your squirrel or your gerbil, whatever you have. But they work perfectly for these little birds. So that said, we're going to go back over here and we are going to angle so we can actually see what we're looking at. There we go. And yes, I have a helper in here today because these guys are going to run. Okay? When you have a hatcher that has a dome like this, the thing you have to worry about is when you take this dome off, the little babies are going to go psh, and you're going to have a hard time catching them. So I'm going to take this lid off, and then you're going to see someone else's hands snap in there to grab the little babies. And then we'll show you the little babies, then we'll put them in the brooder. Okay. 3, 2, 1, up! Because they run fast. Okay, so we have, these are the broken eggshells from our babies. Okay, this is what they hatched out of. This one's not going to hatch. Yeah, this one's not going to hatch. Not at all. And that's too bad, but it is what it is. Not every egg hatches. So these eggshells and this dud egg will go into my compost pile. And in the meantime, we have little tiny babies. Look at our little tiny babies. Little tiny babies. They're really, really tiny. And we're going to show you when they get released here. We like releasing them with slightly older birds because they learn how to exist. So we've got those 2 little ones over there. We've got one little one over here who's being a bit of an idiot. He needs to turn around. And we have all these cool looking big guys. So how long do these guys need to stay in here? And the answer is about 2 to 3 weeks. Usually for me, it's about 14 days, 10 days sometimes before these birds can come off heat. So these guys are 2 weeks old. I'm going to leave them in a little bit longer just because they can teach the young birds. And by the way, that's actually kind of important because let me tell you something about quail. They're stupid. Okay? Quail are complete idiots. If they can find a way to get themselves killed, they will. They will hang themselves from wire, which is another reason why I like this mesh topper. They can't get their heads through it and get killed. They will drown themselves. They will not understand that they should eat food. So we've got one tiny one here with the big guys. And because I always put new babies in every week, they're actually really good with little guys. So nobody attacks anybody. Okay, we haven't had a problem like that. But they'll refuse to eat. There's the other one. They'll refuse to eat. They'll refuse to get warm. They're stupid. Okay, they'll get wet and die. They'll have a breeze crop up and then they'll die. So with quail, you need to take all precautions. So don't have anywhere where they can stick their head and hang themselves because they'll do it. Don't have a waterer that's big enough for them to get their heads in because they'll do it and they'll drown. Don't have a feeder that they can get stuck in. So occasionally you'll have a quail climb up inside these feeders, but you can just unscrew the top and get them out. So it's fine. If you have a feeder that they can get trapped in and you can't get them out, you're probably going to have a dead baby. Okay, so pick your feeders and waterers with care. I will provide links to the products you're seeing here or a similar product just in case you can't find them at your local store. I'm sure you can. I'm sure your feed store has these feeders and waterers, but just in case. Okay, I'll provide the links. So you want to make sure your babies are safe. Your babies are contained, so make sure there's nowhere they can get out. So, no holes big enough for babies. No places they can hang themselves. No places they can fry themselves. Again, if you're using a heat lamp, make sure they can't jump up into the heat lamp. I'm just going to move out of the way so that my helper can exit the room if he wants to. I'm standing in his way. There we go. So you do want to make sure that they can't get themselves killed. And again, if you have a heat lamp, make sure they can't jump into it, because they will. I have seen that. Baby quail jump up into the light, and then they get themselves killed. They get themselves fried. So make sure your heat lamps have a cage on them, so the bulb is fully enclosed, because you want to make sure they can't jump up in there and get themselves killed, because they're dumb. I am not kidding. They're idiots. Okay, quail are like as bad as turkeys. So I'm just gonna lift this up. See, we have little ones under there. They go up, they get warm. See, that's the difference between 1 week and 2 week. No, sorry, 2 day and 1 week old. That's the little guy, and then the bigger guy. So they'll go under there, they'll get warm. There's actually food scattered on the ground underneath that, so that they're pretty safe. So we have these little tiny guys. They're all good. What you want to do is, also I like this round brooder, because if you have a corner, sometimes they'll go get trapped in a corner and pile on each other and die. See, there's a little one coming out with the bigger ones. He's going to learn how to eat and drink from them. So that's another reason to put them in with someone slightly older. There he goes. He's learning how to drink. Perfect. So he's learning how to drink water. And then under here, we have 2 more of the little ones. Okay? 2 of those little guys. They're learning how to get warm. So, oh, good. He's looking really good. So the big ones will teach the little ones. So if you can, obviously you can't if it's your first group of quail and you don't have older ones to put them in with. But if you can, brood them with somebody that's a little bit older so that they can show them the ropes. Okay, and quail do have this tendency to jump up and fly. So you want to make sure your brooder has a top. Okay, so I'm just going to... Sorry for scaring you guys. You're not going to like that. Sorry. So this one just zips up. No big deal. Zips all the way around. And ta-da! My brooder is secure. Now we're also in a building. So we're in a little bunkie where I hatch and brood. Just because I can. So these guys will stay perfectly warm. It won't be a big deal. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to put them in here, and they have to stay in here for about 3 weeks. Feeders and waterers need to stay full. Don't let them run empty. Okay? So if your water's getting low, change it out, new water. They need it. They need 24/7 access to food and water because they're babies. 24/7 access to heat, but they also need to be able to get away from the heat. So have enough heat plates that all your birds can get under and stay warm, but also plenty of space for them to run around and get out of that heat, because they do need to be able to get out of that heat. That's how they learn to regulate their temperature. So that is how you hatch and then brood your quail. It's not complicated, it's not difficult, but you do need to acquire your eggs, you do need an incubator, and you do need a brooder. So those are the things you need. Okay? Eggs, incubator, brooder. When you have those 3 things, you will be able to hatch your own baby quail and have a lot of fun with them. Can you make this a business? Someone's going to ask me. I know they are. The answer is yes, but you have to do it fairly large scale. And you still need to do all these steps. So that's about it for us here at Anderson Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.